The moment she placed the check on his kitchen table, more money than he'd ever see in 10 lifetimes, he looked her straight in the eyes and said 7 words that made her perfectly composed face crumble. Stay with me until the end to discover how a struggling single father with nothing brought one of the world's most powerful women to her knees with just a simple truth about what it really means to be a parent. If this story touches your heart the way it touched mine, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories that remind us what truly matters in life. Jack Sullivan hadn't slept more than 4 consecutive hours in the past 3 years. Not since Sarah died giving birth to their daughter Mia. The irony wasn't lost on him, the happiest day of his life colliding with the most devastating in the span of just 27 minutes. One moment he was holding his wife's hand as she brought their daughter into the world, and the next, he was watching doctors frantically try to stop the hemorrhaging that would ultimately take her away forever. Now, at 32, Jack's life revolved entirely around his daughter and the constant struggle to keep their heads above water. Their small 2-bedroom apartment wasn't much, but it was clean and filled with the artwork Mia created at preschool, colorful handprints, misshapen hearts, and stick figures labeled Daddy and Me. The refrigerator door had become a gallery of her creativity, each new masterpiece proudly displayed alongside photos of Sarah, ensuring Mia would know her mother's face even if she couldn't remember her voice. Jack worked 2 jobs, days as a carpenter at a local construction company and evenings doing maintenance work at Mia's preschool in exchange for reduced tuition. The arrangement meant he could be near his daughter while earning extra income, but it also meant he was perpetually exhausted. His hands were calloused and often cracked from work, his clothes were worn but meticulously clean, and the dark circles under his eyes had become a permanent feature of his face. "Daddy, can we have pancakes shaped like stars again?" Mia asked one Saturday morning, her brown curls wild from sleep, her eyes, Sarah's eyes, bright with hope. "Of course, princess," Jack smiled, hiding the fact that he'd been calculating whether they could afford milk for the rest of the week if he used some for pancake batter. He'd skip lunch for a few days. It wouldn't be the first time. As Mia happily devoured her star-shaped pancakes, Jack's phone rang, an unknown number. He almost didn't answer, assuming it was another debt collector. The medical bills from Sarah's emergency procedures had buried him in debt that seemed impossible to escape. "Mr. Sullivan?" The voice on the other end was crisp, professional. "This is Elaine Winters, executive assistant to Ms. Alexandra Blackwood of Blackwood Industries. Ms. Blackwood would like to meet with you this afternoon regarding a matter of mutual interest." Jack nearly dropped the phone. Alexandra Blackwood was one of the wealthiest women in the country, a tech mogul whose face graced the covers of business magazines, known for her ruthless acquisition strategies and ice-cold demeanor. What could she possibly want with him? "There must be some mistake," Jack said, watching Mia use her finger to draw shapes in the syrup on her plate. "No mistake, Mr. Sullivan. A car will pick you up at 2 p.m. Ms. Blackwood doesn't take no for an answer." Jack arranged for his elderly neighbor, Mrs. Chen, to watch Mia for a few hours. The woman had become like a grandmother to his daughter, often sharing stories of her own childhood in Shanghai while teaching Mia to fold paper cranes and count in Mandarin. The sleek black car that arrived outside their apartment building looked comically out of place in their neighborhood. Jack felt equally out of place in the vehicle's plush leather interior, acutely aware of his worn jeans and the faded flannel shirt he'd hastily changed into his good clothes. Blackwood Tower dominated the city skyline, 70 stories of gleaming glass and steel that seemed to touch the clouds. Jack's stomach knotted as the elevator whisked him to the top floor, where Alexandra Blackwood's office occupied the entire space. She wasn't what he expected. Photographs didn't capture the intensity of her presence. Tall and elegant in a tailored charcoal suit, her dark hair pulled back in a severe knot that emphasized her sharp cheekbones and penetrating gray eyes. At 45, she was still strikingly beautiful, but in a cold, untouchable way that made Jack think of marble statues. "Mr. Sullivan," she said, not rising from behind her massive desk. "Thank you for coming on such short notice." Jack remained standing, despite the chair offered to him. I'm not sure why I'm here, Ms. Blackwood. She studied him for a moment, her expression unreadable. I'll be direct. I understand you're a single father to a 3-year-old daughter. I also understand you're drowning in medical debt and struggling to provide even the basics. Jack stiffened. We manage just fine. A thin smile crossed her lips. My research suggests otherwise. 2 jobs, an apartment in one of the city's poorest neighborhoods, and I believe you pawned your wedding ring last month to pay for your daughter's antibiotics when she had strep throat. The blood drained from Jack's face. How could she possibly know that? I'm offering you a solution, Mr. Sullivan, Alexandra continued, opening a drawer and removing a manila envelope. $5 million. Tax-free. Enough to pay off your debts, buy a comfortable home, establish a college fund, and never work another day in your life if you choose not to. She slid the envelope across the desk. Jack didn't touch it. What's the catch? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I want your daughter. The words hung in the air between them, monstrous and impossible. Excuse me? Jack wasn't sure he'd heard correctly. Alexandra leaned forward, her perfectly manicured hands folded on the desk. I want to adopt Mia. Legally. Permanently. You would relinquish all parental rights. Jack felt as though the floor had disappeared beneath his feet. You're insane, he managed to say. I'm practical, she countered. I'm 45 years old, Mr. Sullivan. I've built an empire worth billions, but I've sacrificed a personal life to do it. Now I find myself wanting a child, but I have no interest in pregnancy or dealing with an infant. Your daughter is the perfect age, young enough to adapt to a new environment but past the most demanding stages of early development. My daughter is not for sale, Jack said, his voice gaining strength as the initial shock gave way to anger. Alexandra's expression didn't change. Everyone has a price, Mr. Sullivan. $5 million would transform your life, and hers. What can you offer her compared to what I can provide? The best education, travel, cultural experiences, connections that will open every door imaginable. With me, she'll never want for anything. Except her father, Jack said quietly. Alexandra waved a dismissive hand. Children are adaptable. She's young enough that within a year, she'll barely remember you. The casual cruelty of her words struck Jack like a physical blow. He thought of Mia's laughter when he chased her around their tiny living room pretending to be a monster. He thought of how she insisted on kissing his scraped knuckles to make them better when he came home from construction work. He thought of the way she slept with her small hand clutching his t-shirt, as if afraid he might disappear in the night. I only want a baby, Alexandra continued, her tone suggesting she was discussing a business acquisition rather than a human child. And you clearly can't provide the life she deserves. This arrangement benefits everyone. Jack took a deep breath, steadying himself. Ms. Blackwood, may I ask you something? She nodded, perhaps sensing his resolve weakening. Why do you want a child? The question seemed to catch her off guard. I told you. No, Jack interrupted. You told me what you want, a child past the difficult baby stage. But why do you want to be a mother? Alexandra's perfect composure faltered slightly. I've accomplished everything else I set out to do. A child is the next logical step. Jack nodded slowly. So Mia would be what, another achievement? Another acquisition? Something to complete your perfect life? She would want for nothing, Alexandra repeated, a hint of defensiveness creeping into her voice. Except love, Jack said simply. Alexandra's eyes flashed. I'm capable of love, Mr. Sullivan. Are you? Because love isn't about what you can buy someone. It's about what you're willing to sacrifice for them. Jack's voice grew stronger with each word. Love is holding your child's hair back when they're sick at 3 a.m., even though you have to be at work in 3 hours. It's eating nothing but ramen for a week so they can have fresh fruit and vegetables. It's reading the same bedtime story 15 times in a row because it makes them feel safe. He leaned forward, placing his palms on her desk. Love is showing up, Ms. Blackwood. Every day. Even when you're exhausted. Even when it's hard. Even when it breaks your heart. Can you do that? Are you willing to put someone else's needs before your own, not just when it's convenient, but always? Alexandra's perfect mask slipped, revealing something vulnerable beneath. I would give her everything. Except yourself, Jack said gently. You said I can't provide the life she deserves, but you're wrong. What she deserves is to be loved for who she is, not what she represents. She deserves a parent who sees her as a person, not a possession. He straightened up, looking directly into Alexandra's eyes. My daughter isn't something you can buy to fill a void in your life. She's not a status symbol or a box to check on your list of accomplishments. She's a little girl who knows her daddy would move heaven and earth for her, who falls asleep every night hearing stories about the mother who loved her enough to give her life, even at the cost of her own. Jack pushed the envelope back across the desk. There isn't enough money in the world, Ms. Blackwood. For several long moments, Alexandra sat perfectly still, her gray eyes locked on Jack's face. Then, to his astonishment, a single tear slid down her cheek. No one has spoken to me like that in 20 years, she said quietly. Maybe that's part of the problem, Jack replied. Alexandra wiped the tear away with a quick, almost angry gesture. My mother died when I was 12. My father was absent in all the ways that mattered. I built this company from nothing because I learned early that the only person I could count on was myself. Jack's anger softened slightly. I'm sorry about your mother. I don't want your pity, she said sharply, but without her earlier coldness. I wanted. She trailed off, seemingly unable to articulate what she truly wanted. A family, Jack finished for her. Someone to love who loves you back. I understand that better than most. Alexandra looked away, staring out the floor-to-ceiling windows at the city below. I don't know how to do what you described. The showing up. The sacrificing. I've never had to. No one does at first, Jack said. You learn as you go. You make mistakes. You do better the next day. When she turned back to him, something had changed in her expression. Your daughter is very fortunate, Mr. Sullivan. Jack shook his head. I'm the fortunate one. Alexandra stood, smoothing her immaculate suit. This meeting is over. You've made your position clear. Jack nodded and turned to leave, relief washing over him. Mr. Sullivan, she called as he reached the door. One more thing. He tensed, preparing for a threat or a final attempt at persuasion. My company owns Brightwood Construction. I believe that's where you work during the day. Jack's heart sank. Would she fire him out of spite? Expect a call from HR tomorrow. I think your skills are being wasted as a general laborer. We have an apprenticeship program for our project management team. Full benefits, including childcare. If you're interested. Jack stared at her in disbelief. Why would you do that? Alexandra's expression was unreadable once more. Because you reminded me of something important today. Something I'd forgotten. 3 months later, Jack was settling into his new role at Brightwood Construction. The hours were better, the pay was substantially higher, and the on-site childcare meant he could have lunch with Mia every day. He'd been able to quit his evening job and move them to a safer, brighter apartment with a small garden where Mia could play. He was surprised when Alexandra Blackwood herself appeared at the construction site one afternoon, looking oddly out of place in her designer clothes amid the dust and machinery. Mr. Sullivan, she greeted him formally. I hope the new position is satisfactory. More than satisfactory, Jack said honestly. Thank you. She nodded, then hesitated, uncharacteristically uncertain. I've been thinking about our conversation. About showing up. About love. Jack waited, sensing there was more. I've started volunteering at the children's hospital, she continued. Just reading to the kids in the oncology ward. It's not much, but... She trailed off, then squared her shoulders. I've also begun the process to become a foster parent. There are so many children who need homes, who have no one fighting for them the way you fight for Mia. Jack smiled, genuinely pleased. That's wonderful. I don't know if I'll be any good at it, Alexandra admitted, a vulnerability in her voice he wouldn't have believed possible 3 months ago. You'll learn, Jack assured her. We all do. As Alexandra turned to leave, she paused. Would it be possible, that is, would you and Mia consider having dinner sometime? I think I could learn a lot from watching you with her. Jack considered the request, seeing the genuine desire in the eyes of this woman who had once tried to buy his child. I think we'd like that. 6 months later, Alexandra Blackwood made headlines not for a business acquisition but for establishing the largest private foundation for single parents in the country, providing housing, childcare, job training, and medical support. And if people noticed that the famously ice-cold CEO had somehow thawed, that she now had photos on her desk of a foster daughter with a brilliant smile, no one commented on the transformation. Sometimes the richest people are the poorest in the things that truly matter, and sometimes the most valuable lessons come from those who seem to have nothing. A single father with empty pockets but a heart full of love taught one of the world's wealthiest women the one thing her money couldn't buy, what it really means to be a parent. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more powerful reminders of what truly matters in life. Because at the end of the day, it's not about what we have, but about who we love and how well we love them.